with me now to discuss the results from last night and to look ahead to New Hampshire is CTV's political analyst, Eric Ham. Good morning to you, Eric. So really no surprise that Donald Trump won last night. It seemed and looked inevitable, according to the polls. Can you just give us a few thoughts on his victory last night and really what it means for the Trump campaign as we look ahead to New Hampshire?
Well, after last night's win, and it was a big win for Donald Trump, what we are now seeing is the Trump campaign is trying to coalesce the rest of the party around Trump's inevitability as the GOP nominee and gently pushing for both Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley to actually exit the race and get behind Donald Trump as the nominee. In addition to that, what we are seeing from both Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley, and I think this was evident last night heading into the later contest, is that neither of them have what we call a firewall in politics. And if you go back to 2020, after Joe Biden had lost Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada, it was very clear that South Carolina became his firewall, not just a place where he won big and won big with the Democratic base of African-American voters. It's also where he turned around the race and he began to win a slew of primaries, and the party, of course, coalesced around him. We're not seeing that right now with these two candidates, and it's becoming increasingly clear that this is Donald Trump's race to lose.
Okay, Eric, you're the expert. I know, that's why we have you on. But I got to push back a little bit. This is one state, and when you look at the demographics, it's white, it's rural, it's older. How can we already call this thing? I mean, it's kind of early, is it not? It represents, what, 1% of the electorate of voters?
Yeah, in fact, if you look at the numbers in larger context, we're talking about a state of 3 million people. Only 100,000 showed up for this, so about 3%. And of course, when you look at the total number of voters that participated in the 2020 general election, we're talking about more than 150 million voters overall. So last night was very much a blip in the overall race. But still, we know that Nikki Haley is going to be competitive in New Hampshire. But here's the problem. New Hampshire is an outlier because it's a state where you have a large number of independents. And so she is going to do very well with them. But we could also see a case of John McCain, where we know John McCain upset George W. Bush in New Hampshire back in 2000, only to go on to lose South Carolina, Nevada, and eventually get out of the race. And so while Nikki Haley is certainly betting everything on New Hampshire, it's not clear that she's actually going to win, number one. But then number two, you go to South Carolina and Nevada after New Hampshire, and right now the polls are showing that she's behind by double digits, the same with Ron DeSantis. And it just doesn't appear to be a path forward for either of these candidates in this race. And that only gets us to Super Tuesday, where then again, Donald Trump looks really, really strong. And in the GOP, these are winner take all delegates. And so if Donald Trump does really, really well in a number of these states, it could be a case where he actually wins all of the delegates, which only again solidifies his strength as the front runner for the GOP nomination.
All right, well, timestamp this conversation. At this point, it doesn't sound like Haley or DeSantis want to exit this race, even though some are already saying DeSantis should look ahead to 2028. If you're a Democrat today, if you're waking up and looking at the results, if you're in Joe Biden's White House, what do you think after Trump's win last night?
Well, look, yesterday we got that Joe Biden had a record haul, more than almost $100 million in the last quarter, which is actually more than all of the GOP candidates raised combined. So what we're seeing is Joe Biden has enormous financial strength heading into the general election. And if, in fact, Donald Trump continues this glide path to the nomination, there are still 4 criminal cases in 4 different jurisdictions with 91 criminal counts that he has got to face. And that's going to be a very tall order, combined with trying to win in a general election, where at least right now, based on the numbers yesterday, it appears that while Donald Trump has done very well coalescing conservatives and MAGA Republicans, he still has a way to go with independents. And that looks like that is going to be his weak his weakest component of this race to be able to coalesce those independents. And that gives Joe Biden room to grow.
Right. I mean, as you mentioned, all these charges. Trump is back in court today for a second civil trial with E. Jean Carroll. Really quickly, I don't know if you're a betting man. I don't know you that well. But if you had to say who's going to exit next, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis?
I think it'll be Ron DeSantis.
Ron DeSantis. Okay, we'll see. Eric, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much.